Welcome to Talk, Talent Acquisition Leadership Keynotes. We are around to help elevate, enable, and empower the talent acquisition function. And today we're going to be talking about candidate nurturing. Who do you keep warm? How do you do it? We'll get all the details. Hopefully we have a couple of people on the phone who really feel like they've got this whole process nailed down, because we're going to rely on you all to provide the input and ask all the questions. So I hope you came with your thinking cap on and you're ready to get up on your soapbox here. So first thing, while we still have a bunch of people, because I still have a bunch of people coming on, I am going to just review Talk. I know a lot of you are new. I saw a lot of new signups this week. So Talk is more than just a forum for us to talk online. We also have, full events platform. There are events like this happening all the time online every week, but there's also local events starting. I hesitate to say that COVID is waning, because every time I said that, Omicron came out or something. Every time I said that we were going to go back to in-person events, something prevented us from doing that. But we have been having in-person events. They've been going amazing. So if you're interested in getting one started in your city, reach out to me, and keep an eye out, because we are coming to places all around the country to kickstart everything again. In addition, we have forums, polls, many places where you can throw out your questions and see what the community is doing. We have about 10,000 TA, mostly TA, and some HR leaders around the country. So throw out your questions. There's a ton of people that want to contribute and give their feedback. And then last but not least, we have some of our newer features, a vendor directory and an agency directory. These are great. We've got thousands of resources on here. People are reviewing their agencies, and I think we only started this a couple of months ago. We already have 2,000 agencies on here. So if you're looking for an agency in a new location in a new industry, come on here, check it out, check out the reviews, and connect with them. Same thing for the vendors. Before you pick that next CRM or background check, company, check out the reviews on here. They're all coming from your peers, and so they're really valuable. All right, so going back to the topic at hand, candidate nurturing. So, like I said, we are going to expect the folks on the phone to drive a lot of the conversation. So stay engaged. Throw your camera on if possible. If you're eating, that's okay. We'll deal with it. We've seen people eat before. It's fine. So yeah, jump on. Let us know, what are your challenges? What's actually working? What's not working? And what would your dream solution be here? Because there's a chance that there's somebody on the phone that is doing something like what you want to do. So let's see. Okay, without further ado, I am going to stop sharing my screen, and we will put the question out to the audience. So I have a couple of things that we could talk about, but I think, again, you all probably know more what you want to cover here today. So does anyone want to throw out the first question? What are you having problems with? What are you trying to figure out? And in that absence, we can go to somebody who thinks they've figured it all out. So does somebody want to throw out the first question here?
I'm happy to go, Norman. I think we all kind of understand this concept of candidate nurturing and building communities and pipeline for future state use. I think where we're getting a little bit hung up is around how to best organize it. We do have Eightfold as a tool, in addition to our ATS, which is Greenhouse. So just kind of figuring out the best methodology, workflow, work stream, if you will, to build it and continue to nurture it as we move forward, so it doesn't kind of go to the side and die, if you will.
Mm-hmm. And Eightfold is a CRM, or what would you consider Eightfold in that process?
I would consider it a sourcing tool. It also has reporting capabilities, but it's got
Mhm.
some like AI matching functionality, and it syncs, but it kind of sits between LinkedIn Recruiter and Greenhouse,
Mhm.
our ATS.
Okay. So anyone have any thoughts for Molly?
So I've done this. We used Avature as our CRM, and what we built was, what we called a sourcing toolkit. We put it on OneNote, essentially a SharePoint that anybody in the company could have, and then we had different tabs. But the one that was most impactful was we had folks joining our talent network through the career site. We considered those warm leads, and then we cataloged everyone with links. We use Workday, so we had job families. So we could say engineering, and then within engineering, you had the different categories below that. But we would go into our intake meetings with the hiring managers with the lists of candidates that we already had, and we could calibrate immediately. But we also allowed anyone in the company to have access to that toolkit. So, there were specific formats in there, right? And I had a research firm in India actually doing research and keeping this stuff current. But at one point, we were getting, we had up to 200,000 people in that database. And it's really powerful to go into your intake meeting saying, is this what you're looking for? These are real people. These are real candidates. These are folks that have opted in. But it became a very, like I say, it became a big, big thing. And so it was constant maintenance that, took bodies to be able to make sure that it's current. But it was a very, very powerful tool.
And Julie, when you say capturing leads via your job site, are you talking about candidate applicants to specific roles, or do you have a separate capture?
Yeah, so
we
we have a button. We had a button that said, don't see what you're looking for, join our talent network. And those folks went directly into the CRM, not to the ATS. So those of you that do OFCCP, you know that there's different rules for candidates versus prospects. And so those folks are just prospects, meaning you can hold their data and not have to report on it. So we drew a very thick line between candidates and prospects. And in fact, we did not have a bi-directional integration between our ATS and our CRM just because of that. But like I say, those are folks that had come to the website, looked at potential jobs, but didn't apply, but maybe wanted to hear about things that came up. So again, we considered those warm leads. And it was a fantastic way to capture folks that were actually interested in the company.
Hey, that's really cool, Julie. Quick question for you on that, right? So capturing that data, was it more people oriented, or was it through the system that you were able to manipulate the data and organize it to then ultimately present it?
Yeah, so like I say, we used Avature as our CRM. Avature let us slice and dice the data in a lot of different ways. I use a different CRM now. I'm at a smaller firm today than I was when I did this exercise I'm talking about. Today we use Great People. It's a more manageable tool for us. But at the time we were using Avature, and in Avature we could slice and dice. So I could add, tags. So I had people that worked at our competitors. I had a link for that on the toolkit. I had people that worked at specific companies, link for that on our toolkit. And again, if you were in engineering or IT or any of those, all those tags could come in automatically, or we could go add them manually if we needed to. But the other thing that was, really, really powerful about it was we could, take these 200,000, and if we heard about like layoffs in our industry, we could immediately go in and say, who works at these companies? Let's go out there and, exploit those vulnerabilities. Is there a better way to say that?
And just to be clear, Julie, you're saying that there was no bi-directional. So once somebody's actually applied and they are considered now like a candidate, for OFCCP purposes. I'm sorry. So you're not treating them then the same way. You're not keeping them warm. You're not. They have a totally different workflow. Or once somebody has been like rejected for a job, and
Yeah, no, and that's right. So prospects, again, those of you that have dealt with OFCCP know how tricky this can be, right? So we could take people from the ATS and manually put them into the CRM, but in general, we were either doing mass uploads or we were getting those folks opting in from our talent network. So the point is, if they were in the CRM, we had to then send them a link to apply to the ATS. We couldn't just hit a button and switch them over there. And again, that's keeping that thick line between what is a candidate and what is a prospect.
Mm-hmm. And I just have one more question.
There was
I know in my life, data integrity is a huge problem, right? Things get old very fast. People jump jobs, you lose email addresses, right? You said that was a very a difficult process. How did you wind up tackling that every 6 months you lose like 10% of your database or something like that,
Yeah, so I actually had a firm that I hired that was based in India. It was called White Crow. White Crow had access to our CRM, and their entire goal was to update everything every 6 months. It cost me $5,000 a month to do it, and it was completely worth it.
Yeah, and I would say that that's almost exactly how we've handled it also. I don't know if there's a better answer. There are things out there where you can plug in.
I would love to hear it.
Yeah, there are, I think, like Clearbit and Zoom Info. And so I think there are things that integrate and plug in, and they will like flag things when it looks like something's out of date. But I find those to be, sometimes they're 6 months behind, sometimes they're 2 years behind. So just having somebody do it manually, you're always going to be more on top of it than if you're doing it through like an outside service. That's been my experience.
One of the best ways to keep your data current is to utilize a tool like Seekouts that you can cross-reference your data sheets or whatever against, and then it will provide you and make sure you have the current, most up-to-date email addresses and so forth. Works predominantly in the US, but you can use it globally.
Cool. Seekout. All right. Very good. All right. Any other? It sounds like Julie's got a pretty good handle on this. Any questions for Julie or any comments on the initial question?
Well, I have a question for the team if we're ready to pivot. We are looking for ways to engage folks like interns, new college grads that may have extended start dates, right? So we're making offers in the next couple of weeks for folks to start next June. I would like to hear a little bit about how you nurture, how you keep those folks warm over that extended period of time, and what some best practices are.
I can share what we do at Point B. We have we hire a fair amount of undergrads straight out of college. We do most of our recruiting in the fall, and they don't join us till the summer of next year. So it's a long period of time for those people to wait, and we want to make sure that they actually join. So we hire between like 30 to 40. So it's not huge compared to other places, but we have implemented what we call a future campus hire program. So we kick it off in January, and we do monthly newsletters. We align everyone with a buddy that they partner with. And so they have periodic check-ins. We do virtual events. We do like fun trivia, bingo, different sort of games to bring everyone together. We try to connect people by geos that they're going to be associated with, and then try to connect people by the start cohorts that they'll join. So we have different ways that they can meet people in their geos and other interns and full-time hires that are going to be starting. And then, we just have like that continual kind of feedback mechanism that we work with them. So it's been proven to be pretty, worked pretty well. I mean, we used to do in-person events, prior to COVID, but the virtual aspect has been working as well. And so, we send like little gifts, went around finals time, or send gift cards, things like that, that we do as well. So that program's been really well received and has helped us reduce our number of
Awesome. And anyone else doing something along those lines? No? Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing, Melissa. Okay. Any other questions? We can pivot again. What are you having a challenge with?
I have a question along the same line. My name's Christine. I'm with Huntington National Bank. We're starting a new program where we're trying to nurture executive level people. So does anybody have any experience? What is your process with keeping in touch with people at that level and keeping them warm without it being automated, without it being more of a spam?
Mhm.
We don't want to cross over into that area.
Yeah, great question. Anyone doing more of a personal touch for higher level positions?
Christine, are you talking specifically about people you've already spoken with? Or
Yes.
people that you're hoping to talk with?
Both. We're starting with people we've already spoken with, but who may not have been fit for the role we spoke to them about.
Okay. I have found the best way to do it, just personally, is to periodically just touch base with them every few weeks, just to say hello, let them know that, hey, I'm still thinking about you. How's everything going? And as you get closer to an opportunity you think might be a good fit, at least the door's still open and the communication line's still open.
Thank you.
Okay, that's an interesting point. Is what are your dividing lines? Are you treating different, different like sort of candidate classes based on the roles that they might be suited for, by level of experience level, by location? Do you have different different tracks, I guess, different workflows for different people, and what do those look like?
Yeah, so we're trying to build ours out based on function, and kind of having, for example, everyone in sales is in this talent community, but then within that, depending on the type of role or roles we're looking to fill, we can filter and find the right experience or competencies. And that's kind of what we're hoping to repeat for the areas that we have the most hiring. So maybe we build it in sales, and then we have engineering as the next functional area. And then our goal, again, because we want it to be something that we can truly maintain, and that it's of value as well to the person that we're trying to engage and nurture. We are planning to do a quarterly newsletter to those folks, and really be very strategic about the content that we include, that it's relative to that particular audience. If it's sales, we probably don't want to send them an article on product marketing, for example. So that's kind of our plan, and we'll start kind of building out the content calendar, in advance. So we're keeping in touch. And then of course, having a button for like, check out our current openings, but it's also about like adding value to the relationship as well. So that's kind of what we're planning to do.
Yeah, a quick question, Molly. Who's developing that content? Is that coming from someone in talent acquisition, or do you have a dedicated communications person that works with you on this, or marketing?
Yeah. So it's a collaboration between talent acquisition, and we are very fortunate to have a senior brand marketing manager who builds a lot of recruitment, brand, and marketing content for us, or in collaboration with us. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So we will also take content that's been utilized previously. We'll go out to our website, pull blogs, go out to LinkedIn, find posts that we've shared as an organization, and kind of reuse that content as it relates to the particular audience.
Cool. Yeah. And any other thoughts how anybody else is doing that?
Just to offer maybe a different perspective, because I work for a smaller startup in the health tech space. So we have about 300 employees, and all of these, resources and CRM tools sound lovely, but oftentimes my team is tasked with being a little more kind of scrappy and kind of manually having to do some of these things. So when it comes to higher level executives that we really want to nurture, a lot of times I'm just pulling in like the hiring teams, like making sure they have a stake in keeping that relationship with the candidates and make sure that they're reaching out and or doing similar to what Molly was saying and just pulling like a recent press release and sharing that with the candidate, letting them know we're thinking of them. A lot of times it's just that we don't have an opening. We'd love to hire them, but maybe it's not the right time for us to add someone to the team. So really just trying to let them know like we're thinking of you, but we, just don't have an opening right now.
Yeah, makes sense. Is anybody else having success doing things in a little bit more of a manual way? Okay. What about those tools? We've heard a couple of tools mentioned. I always hear great things about Avature, but yes, it might be a little bit more of a appropriate for larger organizations. But yeah, I hear great things about Avature, and I think they are both an ATS and a CRM kind of, so, and automation and every kind of all in one, which is nice. But
No,
I think
it's
that
two different tools. It's actually two different tools.
okay, but they sell both, and then you have to
Through
purchase
Avature.
both
Yeah, they
separately.
sell both.
Okay. But I would hope that they would integrate nicely since they're both the same. But
We ask a couple questions when we put folks into the CRM, whether we're adding them or whether they're opting in themselves. But one of them is, what is your preferred method of communication? And then we know if we should be texting, and you can call them texting campaigns or drip campaigns or whatever. Are we texting? Are we voicemail? Are we email? And then what is the relevant contact information? So that's number one. But the other thing we do is we say, are you looking for a position now, in the future, or only if it's something that meets your needs at a future time, right? So what is your situation? And then we're able to kind of categorize those as well within the CRM. So that tells us when and how to get in touch with them.
interesting, very good. Yeah. Have you seen, well, I guess if you're asking people what they prefer, then by definition, that would be the best way to get in touch with them, right? But have you seen a higher result coming from, like text or email, like a different channel or different method of outreach? Do you find more engagement through a specific method?
Well, for us, generally when people, well, this is the other part, you have to have them opt into text and say, yes, I agree to accept text. So that's part of the regulatory requirements that we have to deal with. But text seems to be a little more personal, I would say, even if it's done through a text generator, which we have. It seems just a little more personal. We announced a pretty big investment last week, and so we're able to send out a text to those folks that want a text to say, hey, thought you'd like to be informed that Lamb Weston has recently been in the news, we're growing, come talk to us, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah,
but we get
cool.
about, you still get, those metrics of who saw it, who opened it, that kind of thing. And on text, on email, our newsletters that we do, similar to what some other folks are doing, our newsletters get about 40% open rate, which is actually pretty good. Click-through rate on those newsletters is about 20%. For text, we get about 75-80% open rate.
Yeah, that's really high for newsletters too. I feel like that's
yeah.
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, we're thrilled with that.
All right. Any other thoughts from other folks? What's worked best for you? What channels have worked best? Are people using anything unique that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, I'm curious on LinkedIn Recruiter as a tool for engaging and keeping candidates warm. I'd be curious what the percentage is of people on this call that use that and build projects and use the reminder features built into the projects with each applicant or candidate that you're sourcing, and tying that into your ATS with their API to see who's already in your database as well, to go deeper for some of those things like newsletters and other areas that they've had some interest in your company. I'm about to invest in probably more licenses for my organization because not all of our recruiters have that. And I'm just curious on the return on investment. You know,
I would strongly recommend that you do an evaluation and demo of Seekouts. LinkedIn, while it's a great platform, professional network, its validity and usefulness has been deteriorating because they've allowed too much noise and they don't have good validation in place to prevent abuse of the platform. For example, keyword bingo and being mass blasting of messaging has devastated the response rates on there. You can still get responses, of course, but I'm referring to the usefulness. If you compare Seekout, what Seekout can do for your organization versus a LinkedIn recruiter license, you're going to be shocked and see how much less you'll be able to pay for Seekouts. And Seekout was created by a former Microsoft executive. It's a very robust tool. It's probably the best tool I've seen or demoed in the market in quite some time. Seekout, S-E. It's in the chat.
Cool. Anyone else with?
I don't know Seekout. I would say I don't know Seekout, but David and I are on the same page about LinkedIn Recruiter. It's one of those tools that I say we have to have, but in terms of using the functionality and specifically using InMail, I tell my recruiters that should be the very last thing you use to connect with a candidate. I think LinkedIn in general and LinkedIn Recruiter specifically has become white noise to candidates. It's easy for them to ignore. Everyone's using it. So we keep a couple of seats, but I don't make the big investments that I made 10 years ago.
thank you.
Any other thoughts, LinkedIn or Seekout?
I hate to disagree with Julie. I would say that probably 85% of the hires I've have come from LinkedIn Recruiter and InMail primarily, but everybody can do it a different way.
Well, you should always,
more power to you.
you should always A/B test what works for your industry because you may have a unique skill set or area focus that, you know, the traditional avenues don't work.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I think for sure, like Tech Talent or something on LinkedIn, I mean, they're getting 50 in-mails a day, the same people, so it's all white noise to them. But certain industries will work and certain industries won't. So yeah, A/B test for your individual industry. That's a great point.
Yeah, I think I think you have to do something to stand out on LinkedIn. And one of the things that we've been exploring, and one thing I did with a previous company I worked for, was involving the hiring managers in some of these social networking sites to do some initial outreach, to start building some talent pools, and using LinkedIn as the project feature to start to identify resources that the hiring manager would be interested in developing relationships. And we found a bigger response rate from our hiring managers messaging than our recruiters, simply because it was a different method, and a candidate was more apt to respond to a hiring manager in mail than they were from a recruiter. So that's where I'm coming from a, using it as a connection tool. And if you can empower your hiring managers and have the licenses to do it, it is an investment. But I did see quite a bit of success with that in my last employer, which I'm trying to replicate. So just curious on thoughts on that as well, from expanding the outreach from just the talent team to, get your hiring managers to participate in their own rescue.
We did the same thing at one of my past employers, Daryl. We had a prospect list of candidates we had identified that we really wanted to go after. And so specifically in creative advertising. And so the creative directors would actually reach out to them, and they got a lot further than what I did. I could do like kind of a warm, like, hey, this guy's going to be reaching out to you, kind of a notification, and then they'd respond really quickly. And they actually nurtured the relationship quite well. But you have to have the investment. They have to have the buy-in to want to do that.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. Does anybody else have other folks contributing to the outreach other than TA, hiring managers, executive team members putting out content, anything outside the ordinary?
We do request content from our hiring leaders, executives. It could be in the form of a blog post. We give them kind of criteria or questions to answer. And then, and same with video, we may have them shoot a video, either in relation to a specific role or just in general, why they recommend joining the organization. And then we embed a lot of those things into our outreach. We've also done the send on behalf of as part of a multi-touch campaign, but that's typically more if we're reaching out to someone for a specific opportunity versus just kind of continuous nurturing.
Yeah, great. And I mean, it makes sense, right? They say people don't leave jobs, they leave managers, right? Or people. The same is true on the opposite side, right? I can think of every job I've ever had. It's because I bought into the Kool-Aid of the leadership team. I liked the person that I was going to work for. And it's like, that's what attracted me to the job, not the job title or, the pay. I mean, there's 50 other positions that look just like that, right? So. All right. Anyone else with another challenge or another question for the group? No, anyone else that feels like they really have it covered and want to run through their process and what's been working for them and some successes? I think Julie did a great job of running through her process at Lamb Weston.
While you're thinking of that, or whoever's going to speak next, I'm going to just quick word from our sponsor. I'm going to just jump in here real quick. So, we obviously have had a great discussion here about nurturing candidates, but we got to get the candidates. So I know we all. It's so easy to say. We've been in this industry our whole career, but Recruitify delivers on that. And how does it do it? It enables you to consolidate all your agency vendors to a single platform to much more efficiently manage them, gaining control and visibility. But most importantly, the platform is a place where you can outsource your hard to fill roles. And it not only will they definitely fill them, but also it will enable you to optimize your internal TA team, because the 80-20 rule applies. I'm sure your team is spending 80% of the time on the 20% hardest to fill roles. By outsourcing to Recruitify, not only will they definitely fill them, but it'll make your internal team more efficient because they'll be more effective on the roles that they do focus on. So if you don't use agencies, it doesn't matter. There's over 20,000 highly vetted agencies on the platform on demand or around the globe in every major economy in the world for any position. There's no budget. There is no budget. Recruitify is a vendor paid system. A small fee is taken from the agency payment. It actually is guaranteed to save you money because community hires are made at much lower fees. A lot of people say, I don't want another system. Recruitify is a system consolidator. All the clients say that because you're using Word documents, spreadsheets, phone, text, email, and intake calls and other methods that are all really systems at the end of the day. Recruitify will eliminate, consolidate a lot of those systems, and it works with any ATS and make your life a lot easier. So give it a try. You can check it out at recruitify.com. It's being used by the top companies in the world. And you can see the reviews on Talk in the vendor directory. So check out recruitify.com and it can help you out. I'll go back to the discussion.
All right, beautiful. So back to the question at hand. Does anybody have a specific challenge they'd like to ask the audience, or does anybody have would like to run through very quickly what they're doing? I find that to be really effective for these discussions, and then maybe you can field some questions from folks.
Hey, Norm, I don't know if it's appropriate, but I've pulled up the screenshots from my talent network so that you guys can kind of visualize how we did this with the sourcing toolkit. Would that be okay to share?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, let me just show you.
Can you share
couple
your
of
screen, or do I
screenshots
have to
here, if I
give
can-
you?
Yeah, no, I can do it, I think.
All right, beautiful.
Okay, so this was, like I say, this is built on OneNote. This was our homepage. We had all of our completed research, we had a way to request sourcing support. This is how to access the Talent Network, and I'll show you guys these later on. We built a custom Google search engine that was just searching our competitors out. We had some definitions, and then every other week we did what we called Purple Squirrel office hours. It gave the recruiters a chance to come meet with the sourcing team and get some help, get some personalized help. So that was number one. Let me go to the next one here. Give me just a second. Okay, so here's an example. Sorry about that. Here's an example of how we would break down, slice and dice is what I called it, all of those folks, those 200,000 people that we had in our talent network. So we could break them down by these job family groups. We could break it down by region. And then here's another one as well. Our business lines. And
Julie,
again, this
I'm
is all
still
the same
seeing the original
information.
screen. I'm not sure if you're removing screens.
Okay, I'm
but
sorry. No, my apologies. Let me go here. About this.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Okay, so again, we could break it down by business line. We could break it down by, you know, specific projects we were bidding on. We also took folks that were in membership associations that were relevant to us. But these are the same 200,000 people that are on Talent Network. We're just dividing them up in different ways. And like I say, we did this all in-house with one of my sourcers that was on my team. Let me show one more here. This one, I want to make sure you can see this. Can you see this one?
Yep.
So again, these are competitor lists. We did it by business line. We did it by professional associations. These are all in Avature, they're live links. So as new information or updated information gets put in there, all of these links get updated all the time. So it's a live link. And then here's another one. Can you see this regional pipeline and prospect list?
Yep.
So again, like I say, this is the kind of thing that we did, and we were able to show this to our executive team, to our hiring team, and it became this very dynamic tool that we had immediately at our fingertips to go in and calibrate candidates and make sure that we were on the right track. And then we would either do additional research or go out and do more sourcing, or, you know, contact candidates that fit the bill.
Yeah, this is awesome.
And then we did, go ahead.
No. Please finish.
I was gonna say, we did newsletters. I think people have talked about that. We did a newsletter every 3 weeks, and we did company content, we did industry content, and then we, you know, did job listings as well. We did employee profiles where we did like 30 to 60-second videos of employees talking about what it's like to work at the company and why they joined the company, why they stayed at the company, things like that. And like I say, we had pretty good metrics in terms of opening those emails historically. So there you go.
Great. Any questions for Julie? Thanks so much for sharing that. Any questions? Comments?
Can you elaborate on the Purple Squirrel hours again? I missed the first part of that, but that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, that's okay. Every other week we did like the first week on a Monday morning and the third week on a Wednesday afternoon. We would just bring all the sourcing team together and have them there to share best practices. So for the first 5-10 minutes, we would just share either a new Google Chrome extension or like Seek Out, how to use that, HireTool, some of the, you know, other tools that are going on in the industry. And then we would essentially say to the recruiters who joined, it was not mandatory, it was optional for them to join, but we would say, what challenges are you seeing? And we would either go out and show them how we would do sourcing research for a particular position, or if they had a more complex challenge, we would then let a sourcer and that recruiter go off on their own and have, 40, 30, 45 minutes to deal with that sourcing challenge together. But we called it Finding the Purple Squirrel. And it was really well received. We would have probably between 20 and 25% of the recruiting team on those calls at any given time. What we found, it was really interesting. What we found was that the recruiters who actually asked for help were the best performing recruiters that we had. Some recruiters think that asking for help means that they're showing weakness. But what we found through our metrics over several years was that the recruiters that actually performed well, the best performing recruiters, were asking for help. They knew where their weaknesses were, and they knew when they needed to say uncle. So kind of just a self-awareness team for recruiters, I think.
Awesome. All right. Any thoughts on that? Any other questions? Otherwise, there's been a lot of chat. I might want to pull some of the questions in from the chat. Donna, right off the bat, you had asked, you need something fresh, not just some automated emails. Or have you gotten some suggestions? It sounds like there's a lot of cool things going out there, whether it's newsletters or sort of video testimonials from the existing team. Any other thoughts on that, Donna? Or
Yeah, I do like the idea of having something structured where maybe, a monthly or quarterly newsletter or some kind of company content. We do share via LinkedIn, usually, some of the things that are going on. I do agree with what everybody has said, that there is a lot of noise right now on LinkedIn. And one of the reasons why I wanted to join and hear what was going on with everybody, because we need to change things up, right? To get noticed.
I don't know if anybody else has observed this, but LinkedIn groups, while they used to be great, are a perfect example of how LinkedIn has dropped the ball. And a lot of the conversations that used to happen on LinkedIn groups are now happening in Facebook groups. So don't think of Facebook as not being a viable platform. It's got over 2.3 billion users worldwide. So it has a lot more users than LinkedIn. And LinkedIn also has a lot of fake accounts. So be aware of that as well. They don't have a good validation process to remove, fake accounts. So, and some people have estimated it to be in the millions in terms of fake accounts. So like 10 to 20% of their total profiles meeting.
David, how are you using Facebook, and how's that been effective?
Well, Facebook, while it has some limited search capabilities, if you get creative with your like indexing and using some of the different operators, you can still find folks that you're looking for. A good example is like using more like a title like registered nurse or software engineer, and doing a search there. And that way you can create and identify multiple people within a certain region. And then what I do is I use a scraper, scrape that information out. Then I refine the information using tools like Seekouts to get the contact information. And then I am able to transfer that into our CRM and then message those candidates or set them up for messaging from that. But in terms of the groups thing, which I mentioned, Facebook groups, if you're in recruiting and sourcing, if you're not part of Facebook recruiting and sourcing groups, you're missing out on a lot of information. So make sure you join them. There's a bunch of them on there. And there's tons of thought leaders and people that are experts that conduct weekly interviews or conversations with people that you can learn from. For example, Shally Steckerl has every Friday has one. I think it's called Shally's Alley, where he interviews different experts in the field, and you can learn a lot from their conversations.
Yeah, I know Shally, and I know Shally's Alley. It's good. Yeah, definitely a good thing to follow. So, cool. What about, there's a lot of talk in the chat about different tools. See some other people saying they use Seek Out or Zoom Info. Questions about Hire Ease, which I guess used to be Hire Tool. Is that right? Anyone want to comment on, do they use any of these? Have they found them to be effective? Or different CRMs that they like, whether it's Avature, Gem, I guess Phenom is probably in that category. No, nobody. Usually people love to either promote or trash what they're using. So nobody has a love-hate relationship with what their tech stack right now.
This is Kiara with Advocate Aurora Health. I'm a senior sourcing specialist. I will comment on Hire Easy or Hire Ease, pronounced different ways. And you're right, it used to be Hire Tool. I specifically work in the DEI sector, so I seek out diverse candidates. And Hire Ease is great in the fact that you can certainly define your type of candidates that you're looking for. There are sequences that you can set up, automated emails you can do, 2 weeks later, a second email, 3 weeks later, a third, or 1 week later, however you want to set up your parameters. So it definitely has some great functionality. The challenges, and I know one of you mentioned this before, I think it was you, the host, about the data integrity. So the way they scrape social media information is a little bit delayed in what you essentially may get when you conduct your search. So what I found is that, some LinkedIn URLs may be out of date, or maybe the most current title is not pulling. You think you're pulling a registered nurse leader, and essentially they're a doctor now or whatnot. So those are the little challenges with any sourcing tool. There are going to be those data integrity challenges, right? But for the sake of discussion, Hire Easy does have a lot of great functionality to set up those automated outreaches and candidate search definitions.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else have experience with Hire Easy or Hire Ease?
Yeah, this is Diana. I actually have a question with regards to that. I'm somewhat familiar with Hire Ease, and I believe that relative to the insight portion of the of their platform, are they, or I believe they may have also launched or getting ready to launch something that is even more in depth, but like more of an add-on relative to the insights. Are you familiar with that and what you were just discussing about, the DEI and your ability to follow up and so forth? What is that with the existing standard platform, or with perhaps this complementary add-on?
So the add-on I'm not familiar with, but the insights most definitely I am. The insight tool that they have on there allows you to pull market data and really assess, what the percentage of this type of candidate is in this area and how they compare to some of your other competitors within the same scope. So the insight, and thank you for mentioning that, that's another great tool that they have. But the add-on I'm not familiar with. If there's more that's coming, that's great. But I do like the insight feature.
Yes, it is. It's pretty cool. And I do believe that there might be like an add-on or something a little bit more robust that might be coming down the pike.
Okay.
So yeah. Cool.
Now, absolutely. Thank you. If anyone has used, because I see a lot of like the Zoom info mentioned in the chat, Seek Out. So if anyone can kind of elaborate on those other tools, because as a sourcer, obviously, I'm looking to see what is going to be most efficient, and especially when there's so many of us. We've all heard of the Great Resignation. There's so many of us sourcers and recruiters in the same space trying to identify strong talent. And even taking that a step ahead, strong DEI talent, speaking from my standpoint. So if any of you have some further insight of some of those tools that you've used that, you know, are great to shed light on, I'd love to hear about it. Some great successes you've had with any of those other tools.
So, hi there, this is Eric Hayner from Harman International. I can comment a little bit on Seek Out. We used Seek Out at my prior organization, BASF, and I brought it over to Harman. We've only got a few licenses so far, but the nice things the things that have really helped have the insights, the talent insights, have been really very good for us. Especially, we came into a situation where we all know about the Russia-Ukraine conflict. We had a number of employees over in Russia. We had to relocate. So we had to identify where can we get this talent from. And at Harman, we're looking for very specific technical talent. So one of our talent acquisition leaders was able to pull data to show that Armenia actually has some of the talent that we could find there. So the insights are great. And then in addition, the contact information, we talk, and I know David's been talking a lot about how he doesn't even use LinkedIn anymore, LinkedIn Recruiter. The thing we find about LinkedIn Recruiter is that people aren't always on there. Us as recruiters, of course, we're always on there. We have our email addresses to our professional. A lot of people have their personal emails, or they just don't respond to LinkedIn Recruiter messages. So the contact information, although it's not 100% accurate, it's I think it's about 95% of the time you can get the contact information and contact those people directly. And then from what the feedback I've gotten from my team is the algorithms and the artificial intelligence, when you're searching on there, it brings up candidates much quicker than it does in LinkedIn. Even though it's pulling from GitHub typically in LinkedIn, that's the license we have. You're getting candidates much quicker, and you're getting the right candidates much quicker. So that's the feedback I have there. Hopefully that helps.
A lot of these tools that we're talking about, also to make sure that they have the latest and greatest accurate information, they pay multiple services that are data collection services that harvest free publicly available information. So a lot of it might be outdated at times. So that's why they try to validate it and pull from those additional resources. So that way, when you find a candidate and you're looking for their information, that's where you find it from. So, and if you want to know what specific sources they're pulling from, you'll have to ask the individual ones. But the other thing I would say about tools in general is the best tool is your brain. So any tool that that may work for me or Harman International may not work for you. So you should always figure out what problems you're trying to solve, and then demo tools that potentially address those, and select the one that addresses the most number of those challenges for you.
Thank you so much to you both. And I don't want to hog the conversation, but I hope this is okay for me to ask, aside from tools, we all know that messaging is key, right? So has anyone been in a space where they've outsourced either a specific recruitment marketer or, language expert or anything similar?
No, but there are tools that can help you craft really good messages, like Crystal, things like that will analyze people's profiles and resumes and so forth, and to help you identify what type of personality they have, and what tone and what to emphasize in your messaging. But as we mentioned, some of these tools all have automation or multiple cadence outreach messaging, also known as drip campaigns, that you can then set up and tailor to your specific target audience. But as a best practice, you want to have at least hyper personalization is key. If you just use, hi, Joe, I saw your resume on LinkedIn, and fire it off, guess what? You're noise. If you want a response, actually let them know that you've read their background and that you identify them first as a person, and that you are contacting them for a valid reason with a clear call to action. Also make sure that your messaging is not ungodly long, because too long didn't read. So, and also more than 50%, I think the last figure I heard was 60-something% of messaging now is consumed from a mobile device. So mobile devices don't have very large windows. So if you have massive long subject lines and massive long body messages, you are probably not being read.
Okay.
Also, a lot of, if you want to make sure that your email platform or email domain name is not on spam lists. So a best practice is to send the same message twice, because the first time it'll likely be blocked. The second time it'll likely will get through.
I see. Good
And then
stuff.
other people use responses, so they'll have their initial message, and then the follow-up messages will be the same initial message, but it'll say, "Hey, just wanted to check in with you. Have you had a chance to review this? What are your thoughts?" You know, and then go down the list. And also, some people recommend using memes in your messages and humor. Try it out, but of course, be professional. So I have to drop off, but thanks.
Thank you very much, David.
Kiara, we added a tool called Matheson earlier this year. Matheson, we selected primarily because it's a diversity sourcing engine, but it also has other tools in there to help us craft our messages and a bias decoder to make sure that our job descriptions are inclusive as well. So we've had good luck with them so far.
And it's Matheson, Mathison, Julie?
That's right.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
I will also say, well, we're running out of time here, but I'll say that you could always search the forums for this type of information. A company that comes up in the forums, and I've never used them, but they come up all the time with really high reviews, is Shaker Recruitment Marketing. And there's a few others that get mentioned, Objective Paradigm, Recruitix. But yeah, definitely check out the Talk website, go to the forums and search whatever you're looking for, recruitment marketing, and you'll see what other people have said over the last couple of years. So, all right, well, we are at time. So this has been a lively conversation. Thank you everyone for joining. And does anyone have any last questions for the group before we all drop? All right, well, this has been great. So definitely check the calendar. We have discussions like this every week, and keep an eye out for when we're coming to your city. And if we're not coming to your city, reach out to me and let me know you're ready for us to come. So